You spent $800 on a premium PCP rifle. You dialed in your scope, you hand-loaded the perfect slug, and then you blew the shot because your trigger felt like dragging a wet boot through mud. Here is the truth. Nobody in the airgun community wants to say out loud, the barrel does not miss, the regulator does not miss. You miss because the trigger lied to you. A spongy, unpredictable trigger does not just cost you accuracy. In a hunting situation, it costs you the animal. Today we are cutting through the marketing noise and ranking the 5 best PCP triggers built for American hunters in 2026. From mechanical masterpieces machined to bench rest tolerances, to full electronic solenoid systems that fire faster than any metal sear can fall. And trust me, number 1 is going to make you rethink everything you thought you knew about what a trigger can actually feel like. Rounding out our top 5 is a name every American airgunner already knows. The Benjamin Marauder. Look, this rifle has been putting meat on American tables for over a decade. And the reason it still earns a spot on this list in 2026 has nothing to do with nostalgia. It is about what this platform becomes when you start working on it. Straight from the Crosman factory, the Marauder ships with a true 2-stage adjustable trigger, metal blade, independent adjustment screws, A, B, C, and D, giving you individual control over first stage length, second stage length, trigger blade position, and overall pull weight. Out of the box, the brake sits around 3 pounds. That is perfectly acceptable for hunting deer-sized pests and small game at moderate ranges. But here is the thing that separates the Marauder from every other budget-tier platform on the market. That factory trigger is just the starting point. Under the shroud, the Marauder hides a sear geometry that responds beautifully to hand polishing. When a skilled airgunsmith laps those contact surfaces to a 2500 grit mirror finish, the brake transforms completely. We are talking about a trigger that starts feeling surgical, crisp, clean, with zero creep dragging through the pull. And it costs you nothing but time and skill. For the hunters who want to go further, companies like Airgun Revisions offer full competition trigger blade sets for around $39.99. That is less than a decent box of slugs. Paired with a debouncer hammer kit and an upgraded transfer port, the internal harmonics of this rifle shift dramatically. The Marauder runs clean in 22 and 25 cal configurations, pushing lead pellets with enough authority for squirrel, rabbit, and raccoon at distances that would embarrass a lot of springers. Now, the deal breaker. The factory adjustment screws have a dark side. Back those screws off too far, chasing a lighter pull, and you compromise sear engagement depth. A Marauder with an over-adjusted trigger becomes a liability in the field, prone to jar off if the rifle takes a knock against a tree stand or a truck door. That is not a theoretical risk. That is a real-world failure mode that has bitten careless owners. Tread carefully and respect the limits of the geometry. The damage to your wallet for the base Marauder sits around $500. For a trigger platform with this ceiling, that is a deal that is hard to argue with. And the Marauder proves what a budget platform can become in the right hands. But wait until you hear what the #1 trigger feels like straight out of the box. No upgrades, no gunsmithing, no excuses. Stepping up the power and stepping into territory that should not even be possible. Bullpup triggers have a reputation, and that reputation is bad. The geometry is the problem. On a Bullpup platform, the action sits buried deep in the rear stock, far behind the pistol grip. That means the trigger blade has to connect to the sear through a long transfer bar running the full length of the chassis. More linkage means more flex. More flex means more slop. And more slop means a mushy, vague, completely unpredictable break that no serious hunter should tolerate. The Taipan Veteran II looked at that problem and solved it. Completely. What Taipan engineered here is a transfer bar system machined to tolerances tight enough that the mechanical slop traditional bullpups suffer from is virtually eliminated. The connection between blade and sear feels direct, immediate, like the two parts are sitting right next to each other instead of half a rifle apart. The result is a true two-stage adjustable trigger with a pull range sitting between 1.1 and 3.3 pounds. Now, that is heavier than what you will find on the RAW or the FX. But here is the deal. For field hunting, that weight is intentional and correct. You get enough first-stage resistance to feel confident in cold weather with gloves on, and then a second-stage wall that is unmistakably crisp before the sear releases. No surprises, no guessing, just a clean, repeatable break every single time. Here is the mechanic's insight. Taipan relocated the bolt handle forward and positioned it directly above the trigger group. That is not just an ergonomic decision, it is a tactical one. A hunter in a blind or pushing through dense timber can cycle the bolt and chamber the next round without ever breaking cheek weld or pulling the trigger hand off the pistol grip. Combined with the anti-double feed system built into the magazine housing, the Veteran 2 cycles without drama. No jams, no fumbled follow-up shots, just fast, accurate fire from a platform shorter than most youth rifles. The deal breaker: finding replacement parts and authorized service centers for Taipan in the United States is genuinely difficult. This is an Australian-designed platform with limited stateside distribution infrastructure. If something goes wrong with that trigger linkage or the Kevlar 480 CCS air bottle develops an issue, you are looking at long wait times and international shipping costs that will sting your wallet hard. For American hunters in remote regions, that supply chain vulnerability is a real consideration. Street price on the Veteran 2 Tactical sits around $1,300 depending on configuration. Now, before we move into the top 3, I want to hear from the bullpup hunters in the comments right now. Have you ever trusted a bullpup trigger in the field on live game? Drop your caliber and your quarry below. Let us see who is actually running these platforms on real hunts. Entering the elite tier, and we are leaving mechanical entirely behind. Most hunters have never thought about what a trigger actually is at the mechanical level. It is metal dragging across metal, sear surfaces grinding past each other under spring tension until the geometry collapses and the hammer falls. That is it. That is the technology. The Daystate Delta Wolf looked at that 200-year-old mechanical reality and deleted it. What Daystate built here is not a trigger in the traditional sense. It is an electronic switch connected to a solenoid valve. When your finger closes the circuit, an electromagnetic pulse fires the valve open with microsecond precision. No metal sear falling, no hammer spring unwinding, no mechanical creep dragging across anything. Just an electrical signal moving at the speed of physics. Here is the mechanic's insight. The Delta Wolf runs on advanced velocity technology, AVT. There is a chronograph built directly into the carbon fiber shroud. That is not a marketing gimmick. That chronograph measures the velocity of every single shot and feeds that data back to the onboard computer in real time. The computer then adjusts the solenoid dwell time, the precise number of microseconds the valve stays open, to compensate for pressure drop across the fill cycle. What that means in practice is this: Shot 1 and Shot 40 produce virtually identical muzzle velocity. The rifle is self-correcting. And because the trigger is electronic, the lock time is effectively instantaneous. Faster than any mechanical sear can physically fall. Faster than human tremor can disturb the muzzle. The touchscreen panel on the stock lets you program individual profiles for different projectile weights and calibers. Swapping from a light lead pellet load to a heavy slug hunting configuration takes about 30 seconds and 3 swipes. For American hunters running multiple species across a season, squirrels in the timber, coyotes at distance, hogs at night, That kind of flexibility is genuinely game-changing. The safety system mirrors an AR-15 style selector, operating as an electronic isolation switch rather than a mechanical block, cutting the circuit completely. No voltage, no fire. Clean, simple, and absolutely reliable. Now, the deal breaker. Under the shroud, the Delta Wolf is a computer, and computers fail in ways that wrenches cannot fix in the field. A fouled solenoid, a firmware glitch, or a dead battery at 0 dark 30 in a hog blind is not a problem you solve with a cleaning rod and a spare spring. You solve it by going home empty-handed. For hunters who operate far from civilization, deep backcountry, off-grid camps, multi-day wilderness hunts, depending on electronics for your primary firing mechanism is a genuine liability that no firmware update can fully eliminate. Sets you back around $2,300 for the Delta Wolf platform. That is a significant investment for a rifle that requires a charging cable as much as it requires an air compressor. But for the technology-forward American hunter who operates in accessible terrain and demands absolute mechanical consistency, nothing else on this list fires like this. Closer to the crown, and we are now talking about the most configurable trigger system ever bolted onto a production PCP hunting rifle. The FX Impact has dominated the high-end airgun market for years. Every serious American hunter knows the name. But the M4 changed the conversation entirely. Because what FX Engineering delivered with this platform is not just an upgraded trigger, it is a trigger philosophy. The Quick-Set Trigger System, QST, solves a problem that has frustrated serious hunters for decades. Here is the dilemma. A light, crisp bench rest trigger gives you the accuracy you want, but it carries real risk in field conditions. Cold hands, adrenaline, rough terrain. A heavy hunting trigger keeps you safe, but it costs you the precision shot when a coyote steps into a clearing at 120 yards and you have 3 seconds to break the shot cleanly. The quick-set trigger eliminates that compromise completely. One screw, turn it one direction and you are running a heavy, predictable field-safe pull weight. Turn it the other direction and the brake drops to a crisp, light release that would embarrass triggers costing 3 times as much. The blade itself adjusts for reach, height, and rotational angle. That matters more than most hunters realize. When your trigger blade contacts your fingertip at a perfect 90-degree angle, lateral torque on the muzzle drops to near zero at the moment of release. That is free accuracy. No technique change required. No additional hardware, just geometry working in your favor. Here is the mechanic's insight. The real ceiling of the FX Impact M4 trigger system is unlocked through the Huma-Air Precision Control Trigger, PCT. Developed in collaboration with former Dutch field target champion Bernd Paas, this €139.95 upgrade replaces every sliding friction surface inside the trigger group with ball-bearing contact points. What that means physically is this. Sliding friction, metal dragging across metal under spring load, is replaced entirely by rolling friction. The mechanical resistance to sear release drops dramatically. Verified pull weights of 4.2 ounces have been confirmed by independent competition shooters. 4.2 ounces. On a hunting rifle rated for 156 foot-pounds of energy and 35 cal configuration, that combination should not be physically possible. And yet here we are. 3 torque configurations let the hunter balance mechanical leverage against hammer spring tension for whatever caliber and power level they are running. From a 35 foot-pound 22 cal squirrel setup all the way to a full 156 foot-pound Predator configuration with the 750 CCS power plenum bottle, the platform adapts completely. Now, the deal breaker. Proprietary fill probes will drain your wallet faster than you expect. FX runs its own ecosystem hard. Spare magazines, specialized fill adapters, and platform-specific accessories carry premium pricing that adds up brutally over a season. Hunters who already run a diverse equipment setup with multiple air sources and fill systems will find the FX ecosystem demanding in ways that go beyond the initial purchase price. The damage to your wallet for the M4 starts around $2,200 before you even look at the PCT upgrade. But for American hunters who demand a single platform that transitions from backyard pest control to serious predator hunting without swapping rifles, the FX Impact M4 with the Huma-Air PCT installed is as close to a universal trigger solution as this industry has ever produced. And here we are, the throne. There is a reason American hunters who have shot everything on this list, and I mean everything, keep coming back to the same answer. Rapid Air Works, the RAWHM 1000X. Look, the Daystate Delta Wolf is a technological marvel. It self-corrects. It fires at the speed of electricity. It does things no mechanical trigger can replicate. But when that solenoid hiccups in a Kansas wheat field at 4 in the morning, with a 200-pound hog standing broadside at 80 yards, the Delta Wolf becomes an expensive paperweight. The RAW does not have that problem. Because the RAW does not have firmware, it does not have batteries. It does not have a solenoid to foul or a circuit board to glitch. What it has is hand-polished hardened tool steel, machined to tolerances that would be considered extreme even by bench rest competition standards. And the FX Impact M4 with the Huma-Air PCT installed is genuinely outstanding. Ball-bearing surfaces, 4.2-ounce pull weights, incredible versatility. But that system still requires an aftermarket upgrade costing nearly €140 to reach its ceiling. The RAWHM 1000X arrives from the factory already at its ceiling. No upgrades required, no additional investment, no third-party engineers needed to finish what the original designers started. Here is the mechanic's insight. What separates the RAW trigger from every other mechanical system on this list is the geometry of the sear engagement surfaces themselves. CNC, machined from through-hardened tool steel. Those surfaces are then hand-lapped and polished to a mirror finish by the RAW technicians before the rifle ever leaves the facility in Longmont, Colorado. The result is a true two-stage trigger, where the first stage travels through a light, consistent spring tension until it finds a wall that feels like it was carved from solid granite. That wall does not move, it does not flex, it does not change between shot 1 and shot 10,000. And when you apply deliberate pressure through that second stage, the sear releases with a break so clean and so sudden that experienced hunters consistently describe it the same way. Like a glass rod snapping in half. No warning, no creep, no follow-through contamination, just the shot breaking exactly where you decided it would break. The pull weight can be dialed down safely to 6 ounces through factory-accessible adjustment. 6 ounces on a hunting rifle. And because the two-stage architecture keeps that sear fully engaged through the entire first stage travel, the rifle passes every drop test and jar-off test with 0 incidents. Safety and precision existing simultaneously on the same platform. That is the engineering achievement here. The integrated lever safety mounted directly forward of the blade gives the hunter one additional layer of mechanical isolation when moving through terrain or climbing into a stand. When this platform is mounted into an Anarchy Outdoors CNC aluminum chassis with ARCA rail and M-lock slots, the entire system becomes essentially impervious to flex-induced trigger interference. The chassis rigidity ensures that what you feel at shot 1 is identical to what you feel at shot 1000. For the American hunter running 30 cal with Lothar Walther polygonal rifling on deer-sized predators at long range, or pushing heavy lead slugs on hogs in thick timber, where one clean anchoring shot is the only ethical option. No other trigger on this list gives you this level of absolute certainty at the moment of truth. Not the electronics of the Delta Wolf, not the versatility of the FX M4, not the Bullpup precision of the Taipan, not the legendary tunability of the Marauder. The RAWHM 1000X trigger does not give you options. It gives you the answer, every single time. Sets you back around $2,800 for the base platform. For a trigger system and an entire rifle, built without compromise in the United States of America, that price is not an expense. It is an investment in never missing the shot that matters. 5 triggers, 5 completely different answers to the same question. How do you make the shot count when it matters most? The Benjamin Marauder proves that a $500 platform with $40 in upgrades and a skilled set of hands can punch well above its weight class. The Taipan Veteran 2 proves that the Bullpup curse is dead, if the engineers care enough to kill it. The Daystate Delta Wolf proves that the future of airgun technology fires at the speed of electricity and corrects itself before you even know it drifted. The FX Impact M4 proves that versatility and precision are not mutually exclusive, especially when Huma-Air gets involved. And the RAWHM 1000X proves that when American craftsmen machine-harden steel to bench rest tolerances and hand-finish every contact surface before it ships, nothing built anywhere else on Earth can touch it. Your trigger is not a component. It is the last decision your rifle makes before the lead leaves the barrel. Choose it accordingly.